This week's power rankings. Yep. The results of the games that we've seen this week have completely blown the power rankings out of the water after a quiet week. Not quiet this week. So, this has been a little different. Trying to figure out who the top 5 should be right now. Bit more of a challenge to that. There's some surprising teams right now in the top 5 of the NHL. We'll see if it stays that way. Remember, very often by the time Saturday rolls around, everything's just gone back. All right, everything just went back. Starting off tonight with Tampa in against Florida. You know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of Tampa Bay being good, then they're bad, and then they're good, and then they're bad. So I don't know that I necessarily believe this tonight, even though they were way ahead on shots. Bobrovsky kept this one close. The Panthers got a power play early. They wouldn't score on it. Stamkos then scored from Killorn at 6:42. Tampa Bay was up 6-3 on the shot clock 8 minutes in. The Panthers got another power play. They would not score on their power play tonight. Second period, it is Killorn scoring from Cirelli and Chernak at 4:51. And then there wasn't a whole lot else to take notes on. Bobrovsky stood on his head. There was a good road game by Tampa. Their power play looked pretty darn good, but Bobrovsky stopped it. There were numerous stops. I was like, well, I could point out, I'll just put that he stopped their power play, because that's what he did. And he kept this one close going into the third. Kucherov drew a power play early in the third for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The shots really heavily favored Tampa at that point and would through the end of the game. There was a high stick goal then by Connolly. Yes, Brett Connolly scores a goal. It was a high stick. I think he knew it, the way he was joking around with the linesman at the bench. I think he knew he had struck the stick above his shoulder. Didn't really fight a whole lot when they did the review and went, yeah, that was above his shoulder. So the goal didn't count. They do pull the goalie with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. They would score 6-on-5. Dadonov from Huberdeau and Hoffman at 18 minutes exactly. Made it interesting, but that's as close as it got. Your final score is 2-1. Vasilevsky saves 27 out of 28. Bobrovsky saves 46 out of 48. Your 3 stars, Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, and Killorn. Shots, 14-13 Tampa in the first, 18-9 Tampa in the second, 16-6 Tampa in the third. Final shots, 48-28. And again, Tampa's good tonight. That was a great appearance tonight. Last night, they weren't any good. So, yeah, power plays, both teams went 0-4. Tampa was 0-2. Florida was 0-3. And we'll see what happens from here. We'll just go ahead and roll some dice. And it's kind of that random with Tampa. So, again, it's a good result for them. They stay in the hunt. The Atlantic Division actually had a really good night. They did. The Atlantic had a good night, so did the Pacific. So maybe the 2 weaker divisions tonight got together and said, all right, tonight we're not going to be the weaker divisions, and they kind of sort of weren't. And so this was now, of course, Tampa beats a team in their own division, but this is a game they had to win. This is a game that got them that much closer to Florida, so we'll see whether or not they can keep this up. I've been waiting for that all year. I have yet to see it. I'm not holding my breath. I just can't. Next up, Montreal and Pittsburgh. The Habs are back. They just had to go through a bad November, and now they're back. Gensel, though, would make it look like this might be ugly the other way. He scores from Rust and Malkin at 2:59. Those are 3 players that have been red hot, and they stayed that way at the start of this game. The Penguins were getting turnovers against the Habs. This had to look bad early, where it's like, okay, now they're turning over the puck. They're turning it over to the Penguins. This is a bad thing. The Penguins have kind of a lethal offense. The Habs then took a penalty for a face-off violation. It is called so oddly. It's called so rarely. I really hate that penalty. I do. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's... I've seen people rant that it's a power trip by the linesman when they do this. I couldn't find an argument against that in this. I couldn't believe it was a power play. Because he waves a guy and then that's it. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Oh, that's a penalty. All right. So they killed that off. That was the only power play Pittsburgh got tonight. Now in the second period, Jari stopped Cousins and it looked like he was having another solid game, and he did. Now the numbers at the end of the night don't really show that, but he did have a pretty solid game. The Habs got a power play. and they would score on it after the halfway mark of the period. Tatar from Gallagher and Danault at 12:24. Not long after that, Armia scores from Petrie at 16:17. And then one of those goals you need in the last minute of the period. Shea Weber from Lehkonen and Armia at 19:45. Yoel Armia, fantastic season he's having. And Shea Weber, that's 10 goals for him this year? Yeah, pretty good defenseman, that Shea Weber. Good young kid there. I'm kidding, he's not a young kid. So it's 3-1 after 2, and kind of a shell-shocked crowd in Pittsburgh and kind of a shell-shocked looking Pittsburgh Penguins team. But for Montreal, this is exactly what they needed. They needed this. They needed to play against a quality opponent and really show what they can do. I have said throughout their losing streak, they're not this bad. This seems to be really out of character. Third period was a solid road game by the Habs, which continued in that third, even though they sat back a bit. There was extended play without a whistle, and you've got to love that when you're cheering for the team that's in the lead, right? Price was playing really well, so when he was tested, he stood up to it. Gallagher was then stopped late by Jari. Goaltender gets pulled with 1:50 seconds left. Gallagher jumps on that. He gets an empty netter from Tatar at 18:21. And your final score is 4-1. The Montreal Canadiens go into Pittsburgh, and they do it. Pittsburgh's a team that's had Montreal's number for the last few years. Not tonight. Price saved 33 out of 34. Jari saved 22 out of 25. Your 3 stars are Price, Armia, and Jari. Got third star in this one. Power plays Montreal 1-for-1. Pittsburgh 0-for-1. Not an overly physical game. That was saved for the Nashville San Jose game. The shots were 10-5 for Pittsburgh in the first, 17-11 for the Montreal Canadiens in the second, 13-4 for Pittsburgh in the third. So Pittsburgh really did push in the third. Final shots 34-26. Montreal comes out with the win. The shots, that was a lead for Pittsburgh. They don't really have any opinion of that. That's not really a big deal. Huge win for Montreal. Cannot be overstated. This was a huge win for the Montreal Canadiens. All right, next up. This is a huge win too. And again, these are teams that have been, lingering around the bottom or, last 2 rows of my power rankings for a while. And tonight, Buffalo, this is kind of a statement game. And for St. Louis, this is adversity. This is the first adversity they've had in quite a while. They've lost in regulation 3 times in a row for the first time since November of last year, I think it is. Anyways, Olofsson scored from Reinhart and Montour at 18 seconds, first shot in the net. And for people who want to pick it at Allen, Jake allowed that goal in that first shot. He did have a good game, though. Brouwer would then score from Barbashev and Thomas at 3 minutes and 39 seconds. The Sabres didn't get their second shot until right about exactly at 5 minutes. So the Blues had some play, and they definitely had some control there. The first power play of the game goes to the Sabres, and then the Sabres controlled play until the Blues got a power play, and it was a back-and-forth period. 1-1 after 1. Second period, the Blues got a power play around the halfway mark. Really strong penalty kill by the Sabres tonight. Really impressive. Only the 2 opportunities for St. Louis, but still, right? Ullmark robbed Schenn. Absolutely great game from Ullmark again. The Blues were hitting a lot of posts. I think they hit like 4 or 5 tonight. So they did beat Ullmark. They just couldn't beat the post. So those are not shots on net. They don't count as shots on net, and they shouldn't because they're posts. If they were shots on net, they would have gone in. So yeah, Ullmark, a little bit of luck in there, but you got to be lucky to be good and good to be lucky. Sabres got a power play late. They wouldn't score on it, but very late. Larson from Bogosian and Vesey at 19:51. That's got to be frustrating for the Blues. 9 seconds before the end of the period after a pretty good road period, and Buffalo makes it 2-1 in their favor. Third period, Pietrangelo scores from Perron and Bozak at 3:52. That is the 100th goal of Perron's career. He becomes the second defenseman to score 100 goals as a member of the St. Louis Blues. Al MacInnis is your leader with 127. I don't think Pietrangelo gets there unless they sign him to an extension this year and he plays another 3 years maybe. He'll get to 127, but still impressive. 100 goals for a defenseman in this day and age. The Sabres pushed for the answer, and they got it. Eichel from Reinhart and Olofsson at 5:46. So Olofsson started scoring again, which is really key for these guys. This first line has started getting it together again. And Eichel, that's a 14 game point streak for him. Both teams, though, I thought were playing pretty darn well. St. Louis pulls the goalie with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. Ullmark stopped Perron. Gergensen scores from Larson and Jokiharju at 19:09 into the empty net. They pulled the goalie again because this is crazy town. Eichel hit the empty net from Gergensons at 1958, so Eichel says thanks. That's 2 goals for me tonight. And your final score is 5-2. Realistically, it's 3-2 with a couple empty netters, but 5-2. So Allen saved 28 out of 31. He was pretty good. Ullmark 28 out of 30. He was pretty good as well. 3 stars. Ullmark's number 1. Larson and Reinhart. Power plays. Both teams went 0 for 2 on the power play. Buffalo outshot them 11-9 in the first. Both teams had 10 shots in the second. In the third, the shots were 12-11 Buffalo. Final shots 33-30. Very important game for Buffalo. They showed they could hang with St. Louis. And for the Blues, this is the first real adversity this team has faced on the ice in a while. We'll see how they respond in their next game. But for tonight, Buffalo won this one going away. I did wear their jersey for the preview, so there you go. All right, next up, Nashville. This game had 72 penalty minutes between Nashville and San Jose. Most of what's on this board is just power plays, penalties, power plays. First period, the Predators get a power play in the first minute, letting us know how this game is going to go. These teams don't like each other very much. At all. At 8:05, the Predators got a 4-minute power play on a double minor for high sticking. The Sharks got a late power play as well. I told you, the notes were mostly about power plays. This was a pretty ugly game from that point of view. Second period, the Predators were up 12-6 in shots. 6 minutes into that second period. That was overall throughout the game. There was 7+ minutes at the start of that period without a whistle. So again, it's one of those really long periods of hockey with no whistles whatsoever. The Sharks got a power play around the half, and then we end up with an extended 4-on-4 play. There was 20-second power plays here and there. There was a last-minute Sharks power play, and then things get kind of fighty at 19:58. And to start the third period, everybody's in the penalty box. I think it would have been easier to start the third for both teams to just say, okay, if you don't have a penalty, go to the penalty box. Everybody else sit on the bench. It's just going to conserve some space here. All kidding aside, there were 46 minutes in penalties through the first 2 periods, and they weren't done yet. There was a brief Predators power play and then more penalties, 1 each, 50 minutes now. The Predators got close during the 4-on-4. When they do get their next power play, Bonino scores from Granlund and Smith at 4:24. So this is interesting because the app tells me that one of these that I'm counting as a power play goal wasn't. Meaning that they un-auto-ascended one of these goals. Because when I was watching this, there were 2 of them that were power play goals. The Predators went back to the power play. Penalty shot for Barclay Goodrow. And it was stopped. Jones then stopped Forsberg. And here's the ironic part. Martin Jones had a really good night. He did. Martin Jones had a really good night. And the team couldn't bail him out. So I guess that's a shame then for Jones. Let me double check here and see. The Bonino one is not listed as a power play goal, so I'll wipe that one out. Johansson one is. Yeah, all right. So the Bonino one wasn't counted as a power play goal. Must have been just after it expired. So yeah, they un-Ottawa'd it. Ottawa's been getting power play goals the second after they expire. I guess for Nashville, they're like, you know what? San Jose's power plays or penalty kills really good. We got to keep those numbers up. Start a new conspiracy theory right here, right now. Anyways, Jones stopped Forsberg. Saros denied Meyer at the other end of the ice, so both goalies trying to show each other up. They, like I said, they both played well. Predators get a power play. They did score on that one. So Johansson from Forsberg at 12:59. Predators get another power play, but there's a goaltender pull to make it 5-on-5. And while it's 5-on-5, San Jose scores, though technically that's a shorthanded goal, and that's with the net empty, so that's why I've got EN next to it, reminding myself, hey, the goalie was pulled when this happened. Meyer from Hurdle and LeBanc at 18:02. They pull the goalie again. They didn't tie it, however. Yarncroke would score from Forsberg and Yossi at 19:18, and your final score is 3-1. So San Jose made a game out of it, but in the end, Nashville gets the win, and there was a lot of dislike between these teams. So the next time they play each other, whenever that may be, expect more fisticuffs. Jones saved 29 out of 31. See, I say that, and yeah, next time up I could put up a Mortal Kombat logo, and then nothing happens. So yeah, Jones saved 29 out of 31. Probably the best result he's had in a loss this year. Saros saved 24 out of 25, and he was the first star. Bonino and Johansson were the second and third star, because I guess Nashville picked the 3 stars, and Jones wasn't allowed to be one of the 3 stars, which is insane. Power plays, San Jose 0 for 4. Nashville 1 for 7. Shots were 11 to 6 in the first for Nashville, 10 to 2 San Jose in that second period, and in the third 19 to 9 in favor of the Nashville Predators. So your final shots are 32 to 25 in favor of Nashville, which is the way it normally works. They normally have more shots than the other team, and tonight they actually got the win as well. So things going pretty well in Nashville. For San Jose, this is frustrating because other teams they need to catch didn't lose tonight. That being said, I now need to change boards. Now, this might have been the most interesting game of the night. Anaheim in against Minnesota. And if you're thinking, how could that have been the most interesting game of the night? Neither of them in the playoffs. I'm as surprised as you are. The first period, Raquel scores from Silverberg and Carrick at 3:04, and it was a slaughter. The Ducks got a power play at the halfway mark, and they score on it. Fowler from Kasha and Getzlaff at 10:23. The Wild had managed 1 shot in the first 11 minutes. One measly little shot. The Wild get a power play. They got 0 shots on it. And then Eric Stahl collided with a linesman and ended up leaving the game. So hopefully he's okay. It looked kind of scary at the time they brought a doctor out on the ice. He did leave under his own power. The Wild were stuck at 1 shot, 16 minutes into that period. Hartman and Grant then had a fight. The Wild got a second power play, and the Wild got 0 shots on that power play. That's why this was an interesting game. Because after the first period, the Wild had this many shots. 1. There was a power play for the Ducks. And at one point, the shots were 20 to 1 in favor of Anaheim. And I'm like, you know what's sad? It's only 2 to nothing. Hartman would score from Foligno and Rask at 7:59. Now it's 2 to 1. And the Wild sensed they had a chance here. The Wild got a late power play. They wouldn't score on it, but the momentum definitely shifted. I think they realized we're only down by 1. We didn't play in the first period at all. We watched as our leader got injured running into a linesman. We need to pick it up. Third period, they definitely picked it up in that third period. Donato scores from Parisi and Fiala at 2:03. Dumba then took his second penalty of the night. Both penalties, not great penalties. The first one was a trip where he just gets a stick under the guy's skate, and the other one was just a cross-checking. You don't cross-check a guy right in front of the ref. And it just doesn't work. So both careless power plays granted by Dumba, but they didn't pay for it. And Kakkonen was playing very well tonight. This kid is the real deal. I think he's ready. So when Dubnyk's ready to go, I don't know what you do if you're Minnesota, but I'd be tempted to keep him around. But then again, I'd like to see Cal Peterson on the Kings. That's not going to happen either. The Wild got a power play because I think it was Hampus Lindholm lost his helmet. And the referee's like, you either pick up your helmet and put your helmet on or you leave the ice. And he took too long. So they're like, all right, fine, we'll hand out a power play. Now the Wild wouldn't score on that one or any of their power plays tonight. And in overtime, they got a power play 27 seconds in. Not only that, but during the 4-on-3 power play, Silverberg breaks his stick. So it's 4 on 2.5. And I thought, okay, they're going to score here. They have to. They didn't. So we go to a shootout. In the shootout, they had let the Ducks off the hook. The Ducks made them pay in the shootout. Raquel and Comtois with the goals. And Minnesota was unable to answer. So 3-2 in a shootout. Victory for the Ducks, who needed this. Minnesota gets a point, but you have to think they're thinking about that point they didn't get. That Silverberg stick break, that was their moment right there, and they just couldn't make it happen. Gibson saved 22 out of 24. Kakkonen saved 31 out of 33. This kid's for real. 3 stars, Raquel, Hartman, and Donato. At least he's for real for now. I understand with rookies, second time the league sees them, sometimes those numbers start to inflate. Power plays, Anaheim goes 1 for 3, so excellent night for their power play, which usually sucks. 0 for 5 for Minnesota. Shots were 14 to 1 in the first for the Ducks, as Minnesota didn't show up. Second period, it was 10 to 9 Minnesota. Both teams had 10 shots in the third, and in the overtime, Minnesota had all 3 shots to make the final shots 33 to 24 in favor of the Ducks. So they definitely evened up eventually. Interesting game, though. Very interesting game. Winnipeg. This isn't fair, okay? Detroit had a decent game. Eric Comrie had a decent game, and then they had these 2 minutes where I don't know what happens except to say this is how Detroit does hockey. They hockeyed tonight, and they didn't hockey particularly well for a couple of minutes in the second, and it cost them. The Wings were actually up 4-0 in shots 3 minutes in. They came out of the gate very, very well. The Jets got a power play, didn't score on it. The Wings then get a power play. During their power play, well, guess what happens? Lowry scores from Kopp at 12-17. That's a shorthanded goal, and that's how Detroit's season's going. So it's 1-0 Winnipeg going into the second. Second period, Roslovic had a breakaway which was stopped. There were 12 straight shots for the Jets, as I was counting it at that point. This was just not a great game for them. The Wings ended up being stuck on 6 shots for quite a while in this game. N would then score from Zadina at 7:39, so it's a tie game. Then the Jets get a power play. The Jets wouldn't score on that one. However, momentum starts to shift as we get through this period. Detroit starts to look like Detroit. Wheeler scores from Perreault and Ehlers at 16:43. Kopp scores from Morrissey and Pullman at 18:32, and 11 seconds later, Laine, with the nicest goal I think I've seen him score, from Connor and Zbiza at 18:43. And you know why? Because he put it around the goalie. This was, I mean, he's had all these slap shots and all these great Ovechkin-like shots, but that was such a confident move on his part, and it was such a nice goal. I felt bad for Comrie, and I was kind of proud of Laine on that one as well. So if this is a sign of things to come from Laine, Jets are going to have a really good year. Then there was a last-minute power play for the Wings. It wouldn't score. Third period, the Jets get a power play. Scheifele scores from Pionk and Wheeler at 5:04. So Wheeler has started putting up some points. That's good news if you have him in your fantasy. He's started finally getting points like Blake Wheeler had last year. Then there's just the penalty parade in the third. The Wings couldn't score on a 5-on-3. They were clearly frustrated by that, so Hronek takes kind of a dumb penalty. The Wings are getting very frustrated with this. This is 12 losses in a row. 12 losses. This is ridiculous. And when people say, oh, you had to expect that. No, nobody expected the Wings to be this bad. This is horrendous. Comrie, 25 saves on 30 shots. Brossoit, 15 saves on 15 shots. Interestingly enough, when N got his goal, Brossoit had an issue with his equipment. Hellebuck goes in. He allows the goal. He's faced 2 shots. He saved one of them. He allows the goal. Brossoit, there are Jets fans that tonight on Twitter were saying, I'm going to go ahead and give him a shutout, and asking why isn't it a shutout for Brossoit? Because a goal was scored by Detroit. So it's not officially a shutout for Brossoit. And even if it had been, even if Hellebuck didn't allow that, it would not be a shutout on his record. It would be a shared shutout between Brossoit and Hellebuck. So, of course, that has to fall down. So I'm just going to pick that up again. I'm not restarting the video. That's not going to happen. All right, but yeah, that's how a shared shutout works. So, and apologies to anybody who's listening on their headphones when that hit the ground, because I'm sure that was loud, and I apologize, especially late at night. That's kind of mean. And for anybody who may not be completely sober watching this, it's even worse. Anyways, but yeah, the Wings couldn't score on that 5-on-3, and it was just ugly from there. 5-1's your final. Comrie, 25 saves on 30, and yet Comrie had a good night. Your 3 stars are Kopp, Wheeler, and Laine. I would have given Brossoit a star for having 15 out of 15, but I understand. Kopp, Wheeler, and Laine. Kopp has started to really put it together offensively. This team could be really, really scary going forward. Just saying. And I know it's Detroit, but this is a Winnipeg team that was playing well coming into this game tonight. So power plays, Detroit goes 0 for 4. No surprise there. Winnipeg 1 for 5. Shots were 10-5 in favor of Winnipeg in the first, 16-7 Winnipeg in the second. In the third, Detroit actually outshoots them 5-4. Final shots 30-17 in favor of the Jets. So for the Wings, this just keeps getting worse. And for people waiting for Blashill to get fired, I'm right there with you, but I don't think there's any desire on Yzerman's part to change anything. I think he's just looking at Lafreniere and Byfield and saying, if we can get one of these guys in the draft, we have to get one of these guys in the draft, because while it's nice to see Zadina on the board and Veleno's going over and playing the World Juniors, Detroit needs that big name star, and so they kind of have to do what they're doing right now if they're going to get their best chance at getting that. All right, moving along. New Jersey in against Dallas. So this has got me thinking about a video idea for tomorrow, because this, to me, kind of proves something, and what's happening with Calgary is kind of proving something too, and it's something that's stuck with me, and it's something we have said as hockey fans for a very long time. How much of an influence does a coach actually have on the results? St. Louis fans, you guys are exempt from answering this question, because I understand you guys are going to get your Berube jerseys on and talk about how great he is. And that's fine, and that's okay. But that's more of the exception. I don't know how much of an effect a coach really has on the end result. And tonight, yeah, bonus, he's a good coach. It's his first day. He's been the assistant coach. I get it. But with Montgomery out, Dallas, they did what everybody's doing this year, which is beat New Jersey. So again, we'll see. But it's an interesting question. How much of an influence, of an effect, can a coach have? And again, Sheldon Keefe fans are going to be out there going, he's had a huge difference. That was more of a relief that Babcock's gone. Faxa scores from Cogliano and Como at 1:42. Dallas just jumped on it right away. The shots were 7-2 for the Stars at 6.5 minutes. Pavelski scores from Hintz and Radulov at 11:50. This is a perfect goal. Pavelski finally gets on the board, Hintz with an assist, and Radulov gets a point again. So that's a perfect setup for fans of the Stars. It's 2-0 after one. That's all you really need to know. Second period, the shots are 21-4 for the Stars, 28 minutes into this game. Thanks for coming out, New Jersey. The Devils were really lucky at that point. It's only 2-0. And again, this is where we can have the discussion about coaches and how important they are. We can also have the discussion about the fact that the Devils are just terrible right now. Late Devils power play, and I thought it was a good game by the Stars under the circumstances. It would have been completely understandable if these guys came out tonight and seemed a little distracted or a little thrown off. They weren't. Third period, early power play for the Stars. The shots at that point were about a 3-1 differential. That would calm down before the game was over. The Stars got another power play. The Devils took another penalty after that. But the Devils got a turn with the power play. They pulled the goalie with 2.5 minutes left. They got their chances, but Bishop was fantastic. There was a late power play for the Stars that really iced it. That was the end of the threat that the New Jersey Devils provided. So Bishop gets the first shutout for a Dallas goaltender this year. He's been kind of snake bit, so maybe this is the start of some kind of a shutout streak for him. 26 saves for him. He's also your first star. Faxa and Blackwood are second and third star. Blackwood saved 33 out of 35. He showed up. He played well. Your shots, 16-2 in the first for Dallas, 12-8 Dallas in the second, and then New Jersey in the third, 16-7. Final shots, 35-26. Power plays, New Jersey went 0 for 3. Dallas went 0 for 5. Both of their power plays had bad numbers coming into this game, and both of them exit this game with worse numbers, although both of their penalty kills did pretty well because both power plays aren't any good. So, yeah, Dallas, they avoid the dreaded trap, if you want to call it that, and for New Jersey, it is just further proof that New Jersey's nowhere near, they're not getting anywhere near a playoff spot either. I think they're 15 points out, or they're almost 15 points out if they're not 15 out right now. It's getting really, really bad. The odds of them catching anybody in their division right now is just, the odds are pretty darn slim. All right, moving along. Carolina. This is a wacky, crazy kind of game. And for the Oilers, this is a troubling trend. It's a trend now. They've lost a couple of games since the power rankings. I know they've got everybody back. They got Cassian and Nugent Hopkins back. This is a trend. And the problem is the teams behind them have recovered from their poor starts. And the lead they have, I'll get into it on the next board, isn't much of a lead at all. They're mathematically tied with Arizona still coming out of tonight. And two other teams behind them are very, very close. Aho scores from Teravainen and Hamilton at 4:15. The Oilers got a power play, didn't score on it. Carolina gets a power play late, and they'd score on that. Niederreiter from Gardner and Walmart at 17:58. Then Carolina gets a power play at 19 minutes and 50 seconds. And I'm ready to put second underneath that because there's no way they're going to score that. Yeah, they did. Dzingel from Niederreiter at 19:56. So Niederreiter gets his first goal in a while, and the confidence gain from that, he sets up Dzingel, and it's 3-0 after 1. Second period, early-ish, Kassian scores from Jones and McDavid at 7:45. That is Kassian's 10th goal of the year. He's halfway to 20. Things look good, right? The Canes were playing a solid road game. They got a late power play. They wouldn't score on that one. Third period, there was a 1 minute and 22-second 5-on-3 for the Oilers. Interesting note that they brought up during this game. The Oilers have not scored on a 5-on-3 this year. You would think with the guys they put out there and their overall power play numbers, 5-on-3 would work. It just didn't. Reimer was both lucky and good during that 5-on-3. So some moments where it's like I don't know that he wanted to stop it in that manner, but he got in the way of it. Pesce covered the puck in the crease. That led to a penalty shot. McDavid takes the penalty shot, and he whiffed on it. And the announcers, and I'm watching the Carolina feed, they couldn't believe it. McDavid just puck handled himself right off the puck, and they're like, is that a full moon out tonight? What's going on? Seriously, what's going on? How does McDavid do that? So, it's not over yet, though. Nugent-Hopkins would score on the power play from Draisaitl and McDavid at 2:51. So that was after the 5-on-3 was over. It was just 5-on-4. Kassian would then score his second of the game, so it was 11th of the year, from McDavid and Nygaard at 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So McDavid with 3 assists tonight. And here it is, the inconsistent Canes and the resilient Oilers. And then it kind of went the other way, because Martinook scores from Svechnikov and Foegele at 9:27. The interesting thing was they pointed out that Martinook's dad was in the crowd. He was very excited to see his son score a goal. You see him on his phone right away. I don't know if he was on Twitter or Instagram or what he was doing, or if he was just messaging somebody, texting somebody saying, hey, my kid just scored, this is great, and I'm watching it. And rocking the Canes road jersey as well, with his son's name and the alternate captain logo on there. Aho would then score from Svechnikov and Teravainen at 12:16. And Hamilton would score from Stahl at 15:19. And I don't know how a National Hockey League goaltender allows that Hamilton goal. I watched that replay 3 or 4 times, and it reminded me greatly of Nick Lidstrom scoring on Dan Cloutier from center ice. That's the kind of goal that can just have a goaltender destroyed in terms of their self-confidence. So I'm not saying that it's not as big a game as that. That was a playoff game. This is a regular season game. I'm just saying it reminded me of that goal. That's one that you've got to stop. I don't know if he didn't expect a shot or what it was, but Hamilton, that's the easiest goal he's ever scored from the red line. So your final score is 6-3 for Carolina. They are on a really good run right now. Reimer saves 33 out of 36 in the victory. He had another good game. Koskinen saved 26 out of 32. Really troubling signs with Koskinen at this stage. He's had a good season, not a great season, but his numbers have started to fall. Your 3 stars are Aho, McDavid, and Martinook. I probably would have given Kassian second star, but that's me. Power plays, Carolina 3 for 4. That's also troubling. Edmonton's penalty kill has been generally great this year. Their power play went 1 for 5. Shots were 12-11 in favor of Edmonton in the first, 15-13 Carolina in the second, 11-6 Edmonton in the third. Final shots 36-32 for the Oilers. They couldn't maintain that intensity. They tied it, and then they gave it away. And there's some trouble and stuff going on with Edmonton. And the most troubling part is Calgary and Vegas are getting hotter. That being said, I need to change boards. All right, we're into the Flames in against Arizona. I want to talk to just Canadian viewers for a second. So when I'm watching all these games, there's commercials I see regularly, like as in all the time, because I'm watching all the different Sportsnet feeds. So during the Sportsnet feeds for the Canadian games, and there's 2 of them here and one that I just reviewed, they have the Superstore commercial, Canadian Superstore commercial, where shopping hungry is dangerous, and they show a woman that while she's loading up her cart, she's eating everything that she's buying. I think that's disgusting, and I don't know if I'm the only person that when that commercial comes on, I have to leave the room, but I do. I can't look at the TV because it just makes me feel kind of, I don't, maybe it's just me. Just somebody that everything that they're taking off the shelf, they're eating it. Anyways, It's just probably just me. I've never done that in a store. I've never even eaten a grape. I'm going to look around. I'm going to have a cherry. No, never. Not once. Just gross. I think it's because like when it comes to fruit and stuff, you don't know who else has been touching it, and you don't know how clean it is. And so to me, it's kind of like, oh, no. So, bad message. Calgary in against Arizona. Somebody's going to use this timestamp and going, where have I clicked? Did I click on the wrong thing? So, Frolik scores from Ronaldo at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. I'm going to admit this. I can't stand Zach Ronaldo. Can't stand him at all based on Zach Ronaldo. There's a lot of people who can't stand Zach Ronaldo. That being said, who knew that he would be what Calgary needed to really put him over the top right now? Johnny Gaudreau scores from Ryan at 4 minutes and 3 seconds. So Johnny Gaudreau being switched around and given different line mates is working. The Coyotes were up 10-4 in shots at the halfway mark. Not that you could tell. The Flames got a late 5-on-3. They wouldn't score on it, but the momentum was on their side at that stage. Second period, who scores at 5:28? Zach Ronaldo from Frolik. So Frolik had a couple of points tonight, and really generally he's been playing well. The Flames get a power play, and it was really a confident-looking Flames team out there. Monahan would score from Backlund and Hamonic at 14 minutes, 18 seconds. It is 4-0 for Calgary in Arizona. Fascinating. Chychrun would score at 19:49, so one of those goals at the last minute. Kind of leave you wondering, but not really, because it's 4-1. Calgary's not blowing a 3-goal lead in the third. Arizona's been good, not that good. The Coyotes really needed a short memory, is what I put up here. Flames. The Coyotes need a short memory about this, and the Flames, with 6 wins in a row under their new coach, they have to feel pretty good about themselves right now. They may not be happy about Bill Peters and the way all that went down, but you know what? They have to feel really good about where they're at, and Jeff Ward being the coach, he's going to lose that interim tag quickly if things stay like this. Like, I'm thinking like a Berube interim, where he was interim until the Stanley Cup final, where it's like he's not an interim coach, he's the coach. Great game for Talbot as well. Lost in all this, maybe the fact that Cam Talbot had a great game. And there was 8+ minutes without a shot for Calgary at one point in the third period. Fascinating that we have so many games that are like this, where you go through these huge droughts without shots for one team or the other, and these really long swaths of play that there's no whistles. Ronaldo drew a second penalty of the night in that third period. So not only is he getting goals and assists, he's causing the other team to take penalties because he's an agitator. He did it well. The Flames then get a power play. Lucic scored from Anderson and Hanifin on that power play at 14:32. That's right, Milan Lucic with another. This is officially weird, right? And I mentioned Talbot had a great game. It's weird. Kessel would score at 19:28 to make the score somewhat respectable. That's a power play goal, but it's 5-2. So the Flames coming out of tonight, they are 2 points behind Edmonton and Arizona for the lead in the division. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, we're talking about the Flames. What a disaster. They've won 6 in a row. They're not a disaster anymore. This is for real, and they are breathing down the necks of their Alberta rivals. Talbot saved 46 out of 48. Pretty good game. Ranta saved 24 out of 29. Your 3 stars are Talbot, Frolik, and Chychrun. Power plays, Calgary 1 for 3. Arizona 1 for 1. The shots were 15-10 for Arizona in the first, 16-14 Arizona in the second, 17-5 Arizona in the third. Final shots 48-29. Did I mention Tkachuk was scratched tonight? He's day-to-day with an injury of some sort they're not really talking about. They say it's nothing major, and why should they worry about it? They've won 6 in a row. They didn't even need Matthew Tkachuk to make this happen tonight. So the Flames, starting to look like the Flames from last year right now. Between this, the victory over Colorado, that's fantastic. Really, really kind of fantastic. All right, moving along. This was not fantastic. The Vancouver Canucks, they made it look like it was a Toronto home game tonight. The shots were 4-0 Canucks at the 5-minute mark. They did get their shots. The Leafs got a power play at the half. The Canucks get a late power play in that period. But overall, it's a period that features a lot of Freddie Anderson being fantastic. So for Toronto fans right now, things have to feel pretty good. Freddie Anderson has looked pretty good over the last couple of weeks. Second period, Matthews from Tavares and Hall at 1:45. Matthews 100 even strength goals. He gets there in 245 games, which is one game longer than it took Alex Ovechkin to reach that mark. You got to say, and you got to admit, Matthews, kind of elite when it comes to those points. Markstrom was playing well, but it was a goalie duel at that point, not for long. Last minute of the period. Tavares scores from Ceci and Marner at 19:40, so it's 2-0 Toronto entering the third. And in the third period, Freddie Andersen takes over and makes it a show all about him. Besser had a breakaway, denied. Leafs got a power play at 6:04. It didn't work, but it didn't matter because Andersen was giving the Canucks absolutely nothing. No daylight at that point. There were go Leafs, go chants, as usual. That happens every time Toronto comes to Vancouver. Toronto only visits Vancouver once a year, so a lot of people put on their Leafs jerseys. These are people who may very well be Canuck fans for every other home game. This is why, like, when people get mad, they're like, oh, well, how could you wear Bruins gear to a Canucks game? Well, people wear Leafs gear. They wear Habs gear to Canucks games. It's the same thing. It's just everybody hates Boston, so I get it. That being said, there was another Besser breakaway that was stopped. There were chants for Freddie Andersen, and genuinely some excitement for Leafs fans right now. Now, Levo would break the shutout from Pearson and Horvat at 11:14, and it was what you'd call a garbage goal. Wasn't really pretty, but it's what they had to do. They weren't going to get... If Andersen could see it, if it was a standard shot, he was going to stop it tonight. Horvat then had a breakaway after that was denied. That was 3 breakaways in the third period denied. Tavares would score from Hall and Marner at 14:58. Can we talk about how Hall's having a good year? Are we able to have that discussion yet? That Hall's kind of been solid on the Toronto blue line now that he's been given a chance after last year and him being a healthy scratch so often? Can't have that discussion yet? All right. There was a goalie pull with 2.5 minutes left, and then JT Miller decided to be nice. He handed the puck to Hyman. I'm not sure what he was thinking there. So he passed it to Hyman. Hyman gets the empty netter at 18:16, and your final score is 4-1. So the Toronto Maple Leafs go into Vancouver and spank them. Andersen saved 38 out of 39. Markstrom saved 22 out of 25. Your 3 stars are Andersen, Tavares, and Josh Levo. Thank you, Toronto, for Josh Levo. Thank you for him scoring a goal. And for, I guess, coming in and beating the Canucks tonight. Because for the Canucks, this is tough. Because everybody they're chasing kind of won tonight. So the math gets tough for them pretty quick if this continues. Power plays, both teams went 0 for 2. Shots, 11-8 in the first for Vancouver, 12-10 Vancouver in the second, 16-8 Vancouver in the third. Final shots, 39-26, but Freddie Andersen was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic game for Andersen. One of the best games I think he's played all year. And, so the Toronto Maple Leafs came in and kind of schooled the Canucks. All right, moving along. Vegas keeps their hot streak going. So they've had a couple of misplays over the last couple of weeks, but in general, they're winning a lot of games right now. And for Chicago, this has to be another frustrating defeat for them. Now, it was evenly played through the first 7 minutes. It was a late Hawks power play, but the shots were relatively even. For every shot Vegas got, so did Chicago, and this was a pretty evenly played game, and then it wasn't. The second period, Vegas gets a power play. Now, their power play came into tonight struggling. Not tonight. Riley Smith scores from Schmidt and Haig at 7:27. Englund then scores from Tuck at 11:24. That's Derek Englund's first goal of the year. And then Carlson would score a shorthanded goal from Smith at 19:16. They have scored, I believe they said, 25 shorthanded goals in Vegas' short history. 7 of them have been scored by William Karlsson. That was his first goal in 11 games. It is 3-0 Vegas after 2 periods. In the third, they mentioned that Vegas is 11-1-1 when they're leading to start the third period, and Chicago has not once come back when they've been trailing entering the third period. That is troublesome. In a league where there have been comebacks, not that there were any comebacks I can see on this board here. The comebacks are a lot harder to come by as you get further and further into the season. But the fact they haven't got any this year, that's troubling. Pacioretty would score from Stone at 3:17. They get a power play. They didn't score on that one. However, Reeves would score from Stastny and Carrier at 12:59. That was the first assist by Stastny in a while. First goal by Reeves in a while. So for guys who've been kind of on the schneid for the Vegas Golden Knights, they get off of that tonight, and they get some confidence going for them. Kubalik would break up the shutout because you can't have nice things tonight. From Nylander and Boquist, it's a power play goal at 19:33. So 27 seconds left. Fleury's bid for a shutout is ruined by the Blackhawks. So, yeah, you can't have nice things. Crawford saved 32 out of 37 in the loss. Fleury saved 28 out of 29. Your 3 stars are Fleury, Smith, and Englund. And Vegas is 3 points back of Arizona and Edmonton. Those 4 teams are really tightly bunched together. And for Vancouver now, they are 3 points behind Vegas. So things are getting a little bit spread out from them and down because San Jose is further down as well. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if Edmonton and Arizona end up being the teams that fall back. So, we aren't even to the halfway mark yet, so it's early to be talking about this, but it's still fascinating stuff. Anyways, for Vegas, pretty impressive win. Congratulations to them. Last game of the night, Rangers in LA. This was tough. This was tough to watch, I'm going to be honest, because right off the bat, I didn't think the Rangers had it in them. And yet, they were up 8-4 in shots at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. But Jonathan Quick just looked on tonight. And then Brown scores from Toffoli and Roy at 19:49, and it's 1-0 for the Kings. So right there I was thinking, it makes sense. The Kings on the road have been an absolute unmitigated disaster. At home, they've been pretty good. Second period, Kakko was denied by Quick. And then the other way, Kopitar gets denied by missing the shot wide. He actually missed the net. There was a power play for the Kings. They wouldn't score on that power play. It was the only one they had in the game as well. Toffoli, though, would score from Roy and Amadio at 13:22. That's Toffoli's first goal in a while. And then Wagner had a fight with Shea. So it's 2-0 in favor of LA. In these fights, it felt like the Rangers were trying to get things going. Shea admitted that in between periods. In the third, Brendan Smith decides he's going to try to get them going. He has a fight with McDermott. It didn't last very long. I wouldn't if you're on the ice with McDermott and you're thinking about fighting with him, my suggestion would be don't. I just don't. It's a bad idea. He's a big guy. Seems very strong. And I wouldn't mess with him personally, just for me. There's not very many guys in this league now that you can look at and say that as fighters, they're really intimidating. But I think McDermott is one of those guys. And you can tell when they're intimidating because they don't really have to fight. That's kind of what happened with Lucic. It wasn't that he stopped. It was just he didn't really have to. It's something with Chara, too. People don't really want to fight Chara. He would have a lot more fights if people wanted to fight with him. And I think McDermott's going to end up being one of those guys, too. The Rangers, they really needed that spark. That's why the fights were happening. And the home Kings are much better than the Kings on the road. It's really not even close. And then the announcer mentioned, the announcer mentioned this. The Kings haven't had a shutout all year, and the Rangers haven't been shutout all year. And I thought, you just jinxed them. So I put it on the board. The Rangers get a power play with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left. And, of course, they'd already had the goaltender pulled, so now it's a 6-on-4. Panarin scores the power play goal from Kreider and Kakko at 19:30. He jinxed him. He jinxed Jonathan Quick. That's not nice. Quick deserved that shutout. Kempe would then score into the empty net at 19:45 to snuff out any hope the Rangers had of coming back in this one. Final score 3-1 for the Kings. Lundqvist saved 23 out of 25. Quick saved 29 out of 30. And at the time that I started recording this, they didn't have the 3 stars for this game on the app. So now they do. And they are Quick, Roy, and Toffoli. So, yeah, no, I agree with all of those choices. I wholeheartedly agree with them all. Power plays, 1 for 2 for the Rangers, 0 for 1 for LA. And other than the fights, it wasn't an overly physical game. Shots were 14-11 for the Rangers in the first, 10-5 Kings in the second, 11-5 for the Rangers in the third. Final shots 30-26 for the Rangers, but I never got a feeling the Kings were going to lose this. They are so bizarre. The Kings might be the greatest case of Jekyll and Hyde in the league when it comes to being good at home and just miserably bad on the road. But we'll see whether or not that continues or whether or not they can use this to maybe get something going. But we said a couple weeks ago they were going to get things going maybe, and then they went out on the road, and they didn't. There you go. You guys are all caught up on tonight's action. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. There are 3 games tomorrow. So look forward to the preview for that. And thank you guys so much for watching. It's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And a special thanks to Dave Seward and Dennis Levy for supporting this channel on Patreon. It is greatly appreciated as well. So that being said, I'm now done for today. Thank you guys so much for all the support you've provided, and another good day for the channel today, and for that I thank you. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.